Okay. Hi, my name is Daymi Pelaez. This is the ABA Exam Academy, and we are going over Section J, which is intervention of the BACB 4th edition task list. I'm going to move on to the disclaimer. The ABA Exam Academy was created by and for students to earn their BCBA, BCABA certification. Most of the leaders and participants are not a BCBA or BCABA at this time. These meetings are meant to have active discussions, to collaborate, ask questions, and provide helpful suggestions to better understand the BACB 4th edition task list concepts. Due to this, it is important to know that all viewers and participants are responsible to verify the accuracy of the information being provided in order to successfully prepare for the BCBA, BCABA exam. Ethical considerations that we must refrain from. Guys, this is very important because I've had a few meetings where we've had a few people that have almost violated this, and because we're in this field, please make sure not to do this. Please refrain. I know you guys are super excited, but please refrain from sharing any BCBA, BCABA test questions during the meeting, and refrain from sharing any kind of paid resources. So that's including Pass the Big, BAS, any specific identifiable client information. If you do share any open resources, peer-reviewed articles, or books, please make sure to give credit to the author. Finally, since we are in the field of ABA, please act in a professional and ethical manner at all times. So we made some rules. Please make sure to mute your microphones if you are not speaking to allow us to have clear conversations. Number 2, allow the leader and all participants a turn to speak without interruptions. Number 3, make sure to be respectful to others and refrain from using any kind of inappropriate language. And number 4, have fun. All right, so we're going to go over J1 through J8. Minerva yesterday went over the same, but like we've talked before, we're trying to have at least 2 days of repetition. So, the more we repeat, the more fluency we have, and the more it, gets into our heads the day of the exam. You guys are probably going to be hearing us in your brains, repeating the same thing over and over again, but that's the point. We want to pass. That's the goal. All right, so J1. What are 3 terms we need to keep in mind when defining target behaviors?
OCC?
Yes, ma'am. What is OCC?
Objective?
Clear.
Objective, what else?
Clear?
Concise.
And complete.
And complete, yes.
Dang it.
Complete. Okay. Can someone describe what those are and what they do? So what is objective? So I can write it.
Observable and measurable.
All right. Clear, what would that be? Anybody have any idea what we mean by clear?
Unambiguous.
Okay.
Well, it'd be like if anyone who read the treatment plan should be able to understand what to do.
So is that being able, understanding for repetition?
Yeah, like almost technological kind of.
Okay, so understanding for repetition. Mm-hmm. And how about complete?
Complete, you gotta give an example and non-example. Like whatever the behavior plan is, you have to say, include this, exclude this, example and non-example.
Basically just having you guys give me the definition in your own words. Okay, let me move this over here. All right, the next part is what should always be considered when writing goals and why?
Goals should be socially significant. And
Okay, and how do we know we have social significance? By what? By looking at what?
it should be age appropriate.
It should be tailored to what the clients need. Like she said, clients appropriate, clients need.
Okay, but I'm looking for another word that's similar to social significance. It's social what?
Socially accepted.
Validity.
Validity. Okay.
Validity.
So social validity because a person's life changes in a positive and meaningful way. So that's why we need to consider social validity.
Is that applied?
Apply is socially significant.
Mhm.
Which part is social validity then? Of the dimensions or
The 7 dimensions. That's my worst area. Help me out.
mine too.
7 dimensions and the 6 attitudes of science are.
Thank you. Yes, it's supposed to be so obvious.
It is, I know, but that's my worst. All right,
Go on.
let's go to J2. Identify potential interventions based on assessment results and the best available scientific evidence. So interventions should what? What should they do?
Scientific research based.
Functionally equivalent to the problem.
Okay, so functional equivalence is 1. And I'm looking for 2 more things. If you guys have more ideas, you can throw them at me, but what I wrote was 3 things.
Social equivalent.
Based on most recent scientific literature.
So what tell me something about the function. What should the function be? When you're making an intervention, what should we worry about when we're looking at the function?
Relation.
Risk. Okay, so we're gonna have the same function as the behavior. We're gonna have the least restrictive, anything that's least restrictive, and then social significance. And then what should be done to have effective results? What do we need to do as BCBAs to have effective results?
Data.
Data by doing what?
Social validity. Replication. Verification.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it to you guys. We're gonna monitor progress and
Report results.
why can't I take this off? All right, there it goes. All right, so we're gonna conduct social validity assessments by monitoring progress and conduct follow-up assessments. All right. For J3, what is a task analysis? Can someone give me a definition?
It's when you pretty much breaking up complex tasks into like smaller teachable unit.
That was perfect definition. I wanted to make sure that you said teachable because a lot of times we say that it's simplified steps of a complex task, but we forget to put that it's that we need to provide teachable opportunities. So that has to be in there. It must be in there. So if you see a definition that has this but does not have this, then that's not the definition. It needs to have both to be a task analysis. All right. The next question is, describe the 4 types of chaining methods. First name them.
Forward chaining, backward chaining, to the task, and backward chaining with leap ahead.
Good.
It's my school stuff. It's my group.
All right, backward chaining with leaps ahead. Okay, so I described total tasks. Honestly, didn't have time to describe the rest, but you guys can help me with that. So total task is every step is taught, unsuccessful step is prompted in the correct order, and all forms of prompts can be used. So with all forms of prompts, we can use verbal prompts, we can use physical prompts.
Kill me.
Um,
Love you so much.
and it's very similar to forward chaining, just that total task is every step is taught.
This is all, I don't have to
So
do
we
this.
go through the entire task from beginning to end.
Correct.
All right, so who can tell me about forward chaining?
Only the first step, it needs to be mastered before the second step is taught. And it's analogous for backwards chaining. The last step needs to be mastered before the second to last step is going to be taught.
And it still has to be done in order. That's important.
Yes.
They both need to be in order, right?
Yes.
And can we use all kinds of prompts with these?
I mean, yeah, because if the kid is non-vocal,
So when I think about chaining, I think about like tying shoes or washing dishes. I mean, like, okay, Bill, thank you for all the examples about washing dishes. So backwards chaining, I think about like backwards, tying shoes, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So the last one is like, you know, like pulling the knot. Yeah, like I've always used backward chaining with like tying shoes, and I've done like
Both.
partial physical, gestural, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, good. All right, so okay. Okay. All right, how about backward chaining with leaps ahead?
it's pretty much the same thing as backward chaining, except that the learner might have some of the, or not might, already have some of the step in his or her repertoire. So you pretty much, once you get to the step that the learner knows, you just skip over them.
Okay. All right, so I think we got it. Does anybody want to add anything else or any questions? All right, we'll move on then. All right, for J3, I have some continuation. What are the steps to creating and completing a task analysis?
You must, you can watch somebody who is competent in that, or within that skill. You also perform it yourself, and you can also read the literature on it.
Right. All right, so very similar to what you said. The only thing I put was consult with a person skilled on the task. So it's observing competent individual performing the task. When we say competent, it can be when you have a family, it can be the parent, because sometimes different parents do things different ways. So you just got to figure out what's the best for the specific family. Consult with a person that's skilled in the task, or perform the task yourself and write it down. All right, next question is conduct TA and assess baseline data using what? There's two different methods. What are those?
Single opportunity method and multi-opportunity method?
Yes. Right, so it's single opportunity method, and single opportunity method is assesses a client's ability in correct sequence. It uses a plus or minus, and once a minus is scored, all of the following are marked as a minus. Multiple opportunity method means it evaluates the client across all behaviors on a TA. I have no idea what happened.
It looks like Rita has a question.
Go ahead. Did she write on the chat, or?
Yeah, she did.
Do you mind reading it out? I can't.
No, it says that no one's responding. I don't know.
Okay.
No, we can't hear you, girl.
Yeah, because I have a hard time seeing the chat. If someone could read it out, that would be great.
She's typing it, I guess.
Okay. So it evaluates the client across all behaviors, and then on the TA, on the task analysis, and then what happens is you just put everything. So it's more detailed. So you might put like a plus, a minus, a plus, a minus. You just write everything out very detailed.
So she said, during forward chaining, does the learner get any prompting?
Yes, you are prompting the current step, the current I guess step they're on. If they're on the very first step, obviously you will prompt them until that step is mastered, and then you move forward to the second step. Obviously, once they master the first one, you won't be prompting on the first one. You'll be prompting on the second step.
Right. So you focus on that one skill, and then let's say they mastered the first one. You let them do the first one, and then you move on to the second one, and you prompt the second one. And you can't move on to the third step until the second one's mastered.
Correct.
So on forward chaining, you're only focusing on that one step that they're working on, and you're prompting as needed. It's just one at a time.
Yeah, she said thanks.
Then after you do the single opportunity method and the multiple opportunity method, then you decide on the best chaining method to use according to the client's need. Does anybody want to add anything after that, or we're good? All right. All right, J4. As a BCBA, whose needs is your priority?
Client.
The client.
All right, how about if the client is a minor?
Oh, the client and the guardian, I guess.
Okay, so both. All right, so the client, and if the client is a minor, then the parent, because obviously if the child is non-vocal or if they're too young, we need to consider the parent. They're always going to be our priority, but we need to speak to the parent and figure out what the parent's priority is. All right, the next question is, choose intervention that is most preferred by the client and consider what? So think about different things that you consider when you're creating an intervention.
Socially significant, socially valid, whatever.
Socially significance is one. What else do we think about? That's number one in the radar.
What the client prefer?
It starts with an S.
If you have enough no, not resources. Is that one?
No.
No.
Well, that's I can add that. But how about safety?
Oh gosh.
All right. So social significance, age appropriate, safety, and culture. I'm gonna add that what you said. You said resources, because I think that's a good one. All right. How can you do this? How can you figure this out?
Interviews. Direct assessments.
And direct assessment. Checklist.
Previous client history. Case files. That sounds like SVU, but whatever. Yeah.
All right. So I think I should have reworded this question a little bit. All right. So I put, how can you do this? So involve the client when considering interventions, give the client options, perform preference assessment, or reinforce your assessment as tools. So what I was trying to say by this is make sure to do it to their needs and wants. So try to involve the client as much as you can, give them many options, and perform preference assessments and reinforcement assessments whenever you can, as much as possible. Because the clients are always changing, so it's always good to, you know, be up to date with their preferences. All right, J5. What is repertoire? What does it mean?
It's anything that an individual can do.
Mm-hmm. It's the current list of skills, so anything they can do. Independently, right?
Well, I don't know if it's has to be independently. I mean, you know, there are emerging skills.
Okay.
I know it says repertoire is anything that someone can do.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. That's my notebook.
So I think I don't know if you guys are familiar with the VB map.
Yeah.
So when you do, you know, the initial assessment and then you go to the task analysis,
Mhm.
like they have certain like little tiny things that are in their repertoire,
Right.
but they can't do the whole thing independently, like manned for, you know, 25 items locally or
Yeah.
da.
Yeah, it says repertoire, all the behaviors that a person can do.
Okay.
So it doesn't say like,
Yeah, it doesn't say it has to be independently or prompted. It just said it says it is all the behaviors that a person can do.
Okay. We'll just leave it at
awesome,
that.
thank you.
We can probe it to identify what is in a client's repertoire.
Right. All right. So how do you find out what is in a client's repertoire?
Assess at every session.
Okay. So assessing, she said probe.
Constantly take data.
I would also say incidental teaching could probably work as well.
Okay. So I have parent interview, indirect assessments, collecting baseline data, direct observation. I heard probing. What else? Did I miss anything?
I've discovered parent interviews about clients' repertoires across the board, like have sometimes been unreliable. That's why I realized it's indirect.
Yeah, I know. But you kind of have to figure that out as a BCBA. Once you start, you gather all the data and then you make your own judgment.
Well, no, I know that, but I just realized it's not like generalized across the board. Like mom says, yeah, it's whatever. Everybody knows. Never mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because it's from their recollection that, you know, this is why you have to also do direct observation. You can't solely but go by what, you know, a teacher, the parent says. You have to also observe their behavior to have a better feel for it.
Of course.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
So I agree. Who was talking about the VB map?
Kelly was me.
Oh, Kelly, I use it too, and I agree with the whole. And as far as like the parent thing, I've also learned too that when they come in, where they get like initial placement or they get transferred from a more restrictive to at least, you know, because like their parents maybe didn't know that they have the diagnosis but don't agree with their placement, and you know sometimes you know they feel a certain way about the diagnosis, so they put their kid into the gen ed population or inclusion. And then they find out that their child's failing. And then the VB MAP scores come in and they do them, you know, the child study team does it. We also need to remember the amount of time, you know, when these kids are initially assessed, they aren't paired, you know, so she's absolutely right. Whoever said it about, you know, the parents not always being 100% accurate with the skills. And I find that all the time because what they'll do for me necessarily, and even when I do the map, you know, the criteria is a certain type of way, but me personally, I don't score it high unless they can do it for me, someone in my staff, and a total stranger. And sometimes the map doesn't call for that. But to me, the skill has to generalize, but it also comes down to how paired was the individual giving that assessment. time of day and other things. So that's why assessment, going through, you can't rely always on the data because you don't know how long a person knew them or the circumstances that they were under when they were assessed at that time.
So with that, like, what do we use? So if a kid, like if he's in a bad mood and a cow says, and he's like, no thanks.
Well, that's non-compliance. So you have to figure out what motivates him, and then
Exactly. And that's why, like, in a case like with the map or whatever, it tells you, for those who aren't familiar, when you're assessing, it tells you when,
Yeah, like 3 times that's incorrect, then you move on to the next skill.
Right, absolutely. And then they give you time. Sometimes it's direct observation. It doesn't have to be like a cold probe where, it has to be done. You can trial it. There's a lot of room in that particular type of assessment for a lot of them. For some it's within 60 minutes. Well, if within 60 minutes in the morning he doesn't do it, but then during circle time, you're singing Old MacDonald Had a Farm and you hear him say it, that counts.
Yeah, that counts.
It really depends on, the motivation and, the environment that they're in, and I've done that several times where I'm like, okay, and kind of like the GTT way, one-on-one, not so much, but then all of a sudden you throw a peer that he's motivated or reinforced by, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, look, little Johnny can talk.
Very true.
No, absolutely. So, like, all right, but I think we're trying to stay on like Jay.
Yeah, but it's very true. That was a good discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
All right, let's go to J6. All right. When selecting interventions, what should be considered? What should we do to our clients?
Based on supporting environments.
Based on supporting environments.
Least restrictive.
Yep, least restrictive is one.
Woo. Age appropriate.
Age appropriate is another one.
That was from Rita.
Reinforcement.
Resources? No.
The skills are functional.
Safety.
A bit hard. I'm gonna just give them to you. All right. We're gonna set them up for success. We're gonna make sure that they have consistency. We're gonna make sure that there's age appropriateness, that they're safe, both physical and emotional. We're gonna monitor the intervention for effectiveness, and if not, we're gonna modify the intervention. We're gonna teach maintenance, and we're gonna have them in the least restrictive environment. Okay? Does anybody want to add anything to this section? Okay. I've had the situation where the environments, both with physical items and also with even something like family visiting, it has not set them up for success. And I've had to, tell a parent, either I have to get rescheduled for another time that's better for the client to be more successful, or I've had to tell, or the parent has had to tell Johnny's grandmother, you need to come an hour later. Things like that. I've also had the case where the parent wants their table while doing DTT, they want it in the middle of the room. And I've had to tell them it's not working. Behaviors are escalating. I'm not having compliance. I need to move the table towards the side of the room, maybe put my chair in front so that I can redirect him easier, things like that. And that those little changes make a big difference. And I know that sometimes teachers, they make a little change, and that also makes a big difference. So we always have to put that into consideration first. All right, we're gonna move on to J7. All right.
I'm not sure how much more you have left, but we have under 4 minutes left.
Yeah, it's just 2.
Okay.
I might just do 1 or 2, and then we're gonna do some questions after that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, for J7, what should be done with resource constraints? Anything that we have to do to help with resource constraints? All right, think about training.
Use whatever is least intrusive and cost effective.
Okay. And who do we train?
The staff
Anyone
and
who's-
parent.
Who?
Anyone who's going to be in contact with the child who's delivering it.
Okay, so anyone in contact, those are what? Give me some details.
The staff and or parents.
Staff, parents, teachers. So parent training, teacher training, staff training. Any type of possible threats, we need to identify them. I've had situations where I've had clients that love to get attention for throwing glass. So that's a potential threat. So in that case, I've had to tell parents, hey, maybe you should put the glass away or put the vases in the closet, things like that. So, it's a safety concern, but it's a threat for others as well. And they love to say, hey, if you do that again, or if you make me do my homework, I'm going to throw the vase on the floor, things like that. So checking and reviewing data for treatment fidelity, updating funding resources, and legal constraints. All right, my meeting is ending, so I'm going to start a new one, okay?
Okay.